Okay, cool. Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Can our online attendees hear me speak? I know last time our little Logitech thing wasn't great. Okay, perfect. Thank you, man. Okay, so hello, everybody. May the 4th be with you. This is the last general body meeting of the semester, so thank you very much for coming out and supporting and eating pizza and drinking and hanging out with us. I would like to first start out by getting a motion to approve the minutes from April. Motion, can we get a second? Second, all in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Perfect. All right, so thank you for approving those meeting minutes. Second of all, does anybody have open floor? So at the end of the meeting, we'll have our open floor time. Does anybody have an agenda item that they wanted to put in the open floor section of today's meeting?
We have a raised hand in Zoom also.
Okay.
I think that we should talk about whether we want to continue recording meetings, because I know that in my communications this week mentioned that this meeting's not going to be recorded anymore.
Yep.
So I think we should have a discussion.
Perfect. So we are not recording today's meeting. This is the first meeting that we are not recording of the semester, and that is on the agenda already, and we will discuss it more in open floor time.
And then Trishawn has a hand raised as well.
Trayshawn.
Can we unmute her? Or?
Yes, she should be unmuted, I think.
Trishawn, would you like to speak up? She's not unmuted yet.
Virtual meetings. Trayshawn, is the virtual meetings thing you're saying the same as what we've just covered discussing the recording, or is this a different topic?
Actually, it's a different topic.
Okay.
I didn't hear what the person said, so.
Oh, okay. So for the open floor time, it's I think our 9th agenda meeting. We were going to talk about recording of our meetings, and we wanted to have a broader discussion in the open floor time today. That was what we discussed.
Okay, great. But what I was pointing out has nothing to do with that.
Perfect. So what do you want to point out? We'd love to hear it.
Are we talking about this after the minute, the points, or we can talk about it now?
Oh, well, we just wanted to, I guess, get an idea of what we're going to talk about so everyone knows. You don't have to go into it. We can just jot it down in our notes for the open floor time.
I just noticed that it was like a survey months ago, I believe, about the future of having, if we keep in this format for meetings and having hybrid options or having, or having maybe in person. I just want to discuss that further and some questions I have on that.
Perfect. We can put in the future of hybrid, in-person, virtual meetings for next semester into the open floor time. Were there any other open floor time agenda items? Okay, so with that, we're going to get right into it because we have a couple of really good speakers and a demonstration today of some new resources that are available on campus. So I'd like to introduce Rodney Chapman, the Vice President for Campus Safety today. He's going to provide us with a couple of words about campus safety.
Sorry about that, folks.
Campus safety and how it relates to graduate students. So please give a warm welcome to Rodney.
If you'd like.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just,
Okay.
you usually want to hold microphones and sing, and it's just,
You're welcome to do that too.
it's not pretty at all.
Let's spice up the meeting.
Yeah, I bet. And send everybody out of here. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. I am brand new to the campus. I still consider myself brand new. I started on September the 1st. And so for me, there are a lot of observations that I'm making. And I understand for a new person that there is a high expectation of what I am bringing in my 32 years experience to the campus. I also know those 32 years have taught me that I need to posture myself in a place where I'm a listener first. And so I want to make sure that in any time that I have with you, including tonight, that I make time for listening. I can be verbose, so I'm going to ask you, since you have a full agenda, to wave at me and say, wind it down if it comes to that. So one of the things that in my observation here were a couple of things that really stood out to me is in my previous institutions, I've always developed some sort of student advisory committee type of structure where on a month-to-month basis that, well, let's just be frank, we can't be in a serious conversation about transparency of our work if we do it at siloed. And we can't be serious about transparency of our work if we don't incorporate the voice of the communities that we serve. And so, I'm sorry, what was it?
No, it wasn't for you. It
Oh, okay.
Increase the size.
wasn't for you.
So it really stood out to me that although I wanted to organize that here and put that together, I was personally thinking, oh man, I'm under the gun because at some point somebody's going to say, when are you having this meeting? When are we going to reinvigorate what was in place before you arrived? And that has not happened. That has not happened from inside our department. It has not happened from the campus. And so what that said to me is whatever was in place, and hopefully I don't offend anyone, but whatever was in place was not robust enough to be missed and brought to my attention in the manner that I expect it to be. And so what I can say to you is we are putting that together now in a couple of forms. There's definitely going to be a student, faculty, and staff type advisory thing, but we also are probably going to put together some other process that is focused on undergrad and grad student specific, because that's just a different conversation with a different energy, and it will be different members of our department involved in that. But it's what I've also noticed in other institutions, and it's new, Brown is a new experience for me, and I'm sure the reason that you're here is because you recognize how special Brown is. And what I've seen in other institutions is grad school is just grad school. And grad school at Brown is a totally different animal with much more energy and prestige and everything else, and it requires requisite attention to it. And so some of the things that I do, and I don't want, I'm not looking for a pat on the back. Absolutely not. What I am saying, in my 32 years of this work, I've been a part of some amazing things with the communities that we serve, but I also understand that what fits here may not fit in the next location. And so those experiences I will draw from, but I'm not going to replicate those experiences without your input because, and here's the verbose part. Last night, I'm part of a search committee, and last night we had dinner with a candidate, and I tried calamari. And, but Rhode Island, as I'm being told, is known for its seafood, and this is the place to get it. We were at a really nice place and all that stuff, but it wasn't the right fit. And so I look at the work that I do in much the same way. It has to be the right fit. And so one of the programs that I had here already is we did a AAA car check, for instance, and it was in recognition. And when we put this together, I was thinking about grad students. I was thinking our grad students tend to be older than the 18-year-old first-year student, and many of them drive and do other things. Well, if we're going to be engaged in a conversation about safety, one of the things that we did around the holidays was we brought in AAA to do a car check. So for our students who drive, it was an opportunity to, before you drive home to whatever state or whatever distances you may be coming from, there's an opportunity for us to partner with you and say that safety for you is much more than whether or not you've been a victim of crime. Safety is a very comprehensive piece. Is, do I belong? Is my identity, whatever my identity is it respected here? Is there dignity in how I'm approached, how I'm treated, and everything else? And so the work that we do, you're going to see, is going to be across a bunch of spectrums. And the card check is just one of them. Transparency in the work that we do is going to be another. Listening is going to be another. But there's something else that we need to address, which is, in my opinion, directly affects you, but it doesn't involve you. And what that is what I consider is the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is there has been, particularly over the past couple of years, there has been a significant decline in public trust of our profession of policing. There has been much more attention placed on the fact that you wear a uniform, badge, and gun and think that you are here to save the day, that you may not be perceived that way because of people's very real lived experiences and what we see on television when people who dress and do the work that we do it in a poor way. And so, as I am saying, part of your safety that doesn't involve you involves a re-education and reorientation of our police officers, and so that they understand that some of the minor traffic stops and minor pedestrian stops do more harm than good. Some of those interactions proactively from police also have disparate outcomes for people who are less resourced. Some of those proactive activities by police have disparate outcomes, particularly of people of color. And no one that I see in my experience in 32 years, but experience all over the United States, I don't see police leaders talking about that. I don't see police officers saying that when I was a child and I'm sitting at Grandma Bell's foot in her rocking chair and she's telling me about how it was when she grew up, almost all of those negative interactions that she shared, somewhere in the back end of that was the police. And being a student of history, when you talk about it, you name anything. I'm a fan of Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali gets a gold medal fighting in the Olympics, and he beats someone from Poland and comes home and he can't get a hot dog at the corner cafeteria because of his skin color. Or when we talk about the Edwin Pettus Bridge and we cross the bridge, who's waiting those peaceful protesters but police? And no one's telling our police or reorienting our police with that history, so that when I show up for whatever I'm called to, and we're going to get to those calls in just a second, but when I show up or an officer shows up and interacts with you, and our mere presence doesn't equate to, oh my God, thank God you're here, that the officers understand where that energy is coming from. And when the officer understands where that energy is coming from, I think we have a better chance as a positive outcome for the officer to say, hey, I appreciate where you're coming from. I know you didn't wake up this morning wanting to interact with me. I'm here because someone called about A, B, and C, and can approach it in a more professional way. And I keep using the words belonging and dignity, but that officer can approach that situation in a way that respects the dignity of your lived experience and your real life perceptions of the situation and of police. So, as I said, what I will share with you as it relates to the call, and as it relates to you as grad students, you are typically older than those first year students, as I mentioned. And so there is an easier translation of people who may have their own biases that see you as older than or perceived to be older than 18 years of age. And if you have an identity different than the bias of the caller, this is how we get these calls that says, hey, there's a suspicious fill in the blank at this location. And what I'm not seeing is we're not giving we talk a good game about implicit bias and all of that other stuff, but I don't see where we are training our call takers on implicit bias so that our call takers can stop and say, whoa, okay, wait a minute. What makes this person suspicious? And break that down where they understand implicit bias and can interrogate callers more appropriately so that we don't get these situations where police officers are showing up for a person being black or a person filling the whatever the bias of the caller might be. But, and again, this is one of those things that that is directed and being put in place more specific to you as grad students, but doesn't involve you at this level yet because we are training our call takers that way. What may happen though that will involve you is I am an avid believer of training our officers better. And I think the best way to, and I appreciate that we have beer here, so it says I can cuss here. And I really appreciate that it's not being recorded as well. There's a vice president up here cussing like a storm. I am a firm believer of real life scenario training. And there are officers who I believe, and I haven't asked a specific question, but there are officers that I believe that have never heard on a call, what the fuck are you stopping me for? And I don't want a police officer hearing that energy. You know, what the fuck are you stopping me for? You stopping me because I'm black, man? Fuck you guys. I don't want an officer hearing that the first time out on the street. You know, that's something we need to replicate in-house so that our officers get a sense of what that feels like. Know that that's real. Know that it's coming from a place that's real, coming from a place of those conversations I had with my grandma, conversations I had with my mom and dad, and most black people, I'm just talking about black people specifically, there is something, if you ask a black person, what is this thing called the talk? They'll tell you about it if you don't know. But the talk is, hey, you're black in America. This is how you have to behave yourself. If you see a police officer, do this, do this. If you go to class, get there first, turn in your assignment early, all of that stuff. That talk is real. And that talk and the energy from it and the lessons from that manifest themselves when they interact with police. And we need to be training our police to respond to that in an appropriate way where they're not hearing it for the first time and they're saying, well, why are you doing like this? And having those types of reactions that now you just escalated something that really didn't need to be there when if you could have trained for that and anticipated that and know where it's coming from, you could respond like this. I get it, brother. I truly do. I understand where you're coming from. And look, and engage in some of these de-escalation best training type things. So one of the last things I want to bring up before I turn it over to questions, because I want to be respectful of time. One of the things that I'm very proud of our department, and I will say this very publicly to anyone. The men and women on our police department are truly committed to making this as a safe environment, and they are truly committed to being and learning as to be the best that they can be and being respectful of every identity on this campus. My mantra is whatever the day is, is today Wednesday? Okay, my mantra today, may the fourth be with you. My mantra today for Wednesday is if we can say that we're better today than we were on Tuesday, it's a good day. And that's the mantra that I keep preaching to our department, and I believe that having the opportunity to be with you, to hear from you, and to give you the red carpet saying whatever it is that are issues for you as grad students on this campus, that there is a willing ear to hear what those things are. We're postured to hear, we're postured to listen, and we're postured to give you an authentic voice in how policing is done on the campus. So that's what I would want to leave you with. Definitely open for any questions that you have. Laws is good, beer is better, but yes.
So you talk a lot about several different training plans. What's the timeline for implementing those, like for the caller training plan and also like the police officer training plan?
It doesn't stop, it's underway. There are some that are what I call signature trainings. And for instance, we are cognizant of mental health response on the college campus. And so there is something called the One Mind campaign that we will be launching soon. One Mind campaign says that you are making a public pledge to be a One Mind compliant organization, police agency. And that means that 100% of your officers are mental health first aid trained, at least 20% are crisis intervention trained, you have model accredited policy, and you have recognized sustained relationships with mental health care providers. There's only one other agency in the state of Rhode Island that has that distinction, that's Narragansett Police. We're going to be number 2. But some of those have not fully launched yet, but the trainings, like the implicit bias for call takers, that's already begun.
So we have a question coming from the chat. Matt asks, are there plans or discussions for dividing the responsibilities of DPS officers between more focused roles? For example, nationwide calls for mental health workers, except so that there's to become involved in 911 calls. So for example, if someone called for mental health, would we dispatch a mental health worker as opposed to DPS, or are there discussions like that?
So my answer is not a cop-out. That's a fantastic question. And the reason I say it's not a cop-out is we are in, probably for the last month and a half, we've been in conversation with CAPS and EMS, and understanding that the response that we have with this ambulance showing up, the crew from the ambulance, and police officers in uniform can be overwhelming and can further have a person who is in crisis or is in need of the ability to come back to get back to where they need to be. That response may not be the best. But what we are hearing, and when I say this is not a cop-out, is that conversation is kicked off with a lot of energy over the past 2 years, and we are searching for best models, best practice that we can model off of, and a lot of that's just not out there. So I'm beginning to believe that we're going to have to set the standard and put together something ourselves, but we are constantly searching for it. Next Thursday and Friday, I'll be on Capitol Hill. Joe Biden has released a lot of money for mental health response kind of globally. And what has been missing is campus police voice in that. And so I will be on Capitol Hill Thursday and Friday, just talking about you have to include campus police in any appropriations of these funds that you're releasing so that we can put together the resources to develop the model, since there seems to be a dearth of models to follow.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if someone does end up having like a not so great experience in their interaction with DPS, what's the best way to go about either reporting it or just making sure that it doesn't get repeated in the future?
So the first component of that is to please tell somebody, and I would hope that it's me. The enemy of our work is when people have bad experiences and they don't voice them, and we replicate the same behavior not knowing that it's problematic. So yes, I want to hear it. Number 2, what I started off the meeting by saying is I was kind of taken aback that we didn't have structures in place to, like these student advocacy or oversight or type groups where we meet with a cross-section of students, faculty, and staff where we can talk about this every month. And here's something that we're hearing from our students. They are saying this is happening and it's not resonating well with them. And we can talk about it in face-to-face with an authentic voice. And then because it's a cross-section of people, whatever we jointly come up with, you can go back out to your constituent groups and share with them, we brought this up and this is what they're going to do.
Okay.
Wonderful. So if there are no more questions,
Yes.
So I think when people were searching for your position, I think one of the things that continuously came up, especially from the undergraduate population, was the rationale think the only like, in my opinion, valid rationale that President Paxton given was that there are very rare occasions where, in order to enter a building that was deemed, somebody may have had some sort of harmful thing, and for the officer's safety, they need to have some sort of firearm. Now, since the decades of this policy of having firearms, nobody's ever discharged a firearm. Is there any kind of consideration to reduce the prevalence of firearms in the officer population, or only having a couple select people on call every single day having a firearm, or is there any kind of discussion about that? Because I know that was a big talking point.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to acknowledge that my answer is rooted in bias. The bias is I come from an environment where that was exactly the same thing. Very rarely did an officer touch the gun unless they were going to the range. And then August 6th happened where we had a mass shooting right off the campus. And our students were in a place partying and everything else, and the shooter was stopped about 1.5 feet from getting inside that place. And so for me, it's not the presence of guns, it's the presence of officers who are trained appropriately. And because one of the things that, and I'm a SWAT guy, so I was on SWAT for 23 years and all of this stuff, never ever pointed my gun at a human being in my life. But what I found missing in our training and what attracted me to Brown about having an influence on the profession globally is being able to address issues like that. Because when I joined the police department, I could not shoot. If I was standing here, I couldn't hit this wall. It just really could not. And over the years, I became so proficient that I could hit a spider on that tree now. But I was not given any training on when should you shoot. I was not given any training on those real life scenario things that I think, in my personal opinion, escalate way out of control, because many of these egregious things that you see on television arise from really benign calls, and it's bad behavior, bad processing, bad tactics, and all of that stuff. That's not going to be us. And so for me, out of my bias, I see a need for it, because when these goofballs are driving around here shooting projectiles at our students, there's a lot of robberies that happen in and around our neighborhood. I want to be able to protect our students, and God forbid if something happens where the wolf, so to speak, come to the door, that we're not calling on Providence PD and trying to give them directions to the grad student center, and no, turn left, no, turn right. And, we want to be prepared to protect our student population. So my bias is that there's a place for them, but my bias also says that there needs to be appropriate training for it, and we're there. Does that help? Okay.
I don't know if that resolves the comfort that people have with seeing officers with a firearm. And I don't know if there's a way to maybe ameliorate those perceptions. But I don't know. I think, again, I've never had that, but I know that this was a big talking point when this search was out for this position.
And I appreciate it. And again, I don't want to take too much time, but I appreciate that. But I will also share what a lot of people don't understand is we all come from communities where there are armed police. And this is a place in a city as well. In my thinking, there should be no expectation of less protection here. And what I have found as it relates to that kind of conversation is just, again, we need to be better. And what is kind of not known is our size is something that we leverage. And I will raise my hand and say we are better trained than most municipalities out here due to our accreditation and due to our size. So we can do something, and I keep mentioning it, but let's just throw it back out there, implicit bias. I can do like this and make sure everybody on our department is trained. When you have a city that has 500 officers, you can't do that. And we get far more training than most municipalities that are out there. And that's something I think we need to do a better job of talking about and bragging about.
So we're short on
Short, yeah.
time, so I don't want to cut off questions, but I have to so that we can stick to the schedule. So Rodney, thank you very much. I think we can get some of your contact information, share it in our meeting minutes, and look forward to having some more discussions with you
Oh, yeah,
about
absolutely.
these matters.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Our
Thank you, Rodney.
secretary's out today, so if you're a departmental rep, could you just stick your hand in the air so I can take attendance, please?
We just need to make sure that we have quorum for the elections. And we will make sure,
which,
like, whatever
name,
your
sorry?
question is, we'll come back to it. Like, yeah.
I wonder if it's annoying that you could just walk around so that
Yeah,
we can
your
move on
arms
to
are
the
in there.
next. Thank you so much. Sorry. Okay, so, all right, thank you everybody for contributing your name, for attendance. So our next agenda item here is Lynn from Career Labs and our kind representative from the Forage. Lynn, are you in our chat with us right now? I saw you earlier.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Lynn. Thank you for joining us today. So everybody, this is Lynn from Career Labs. Her specialty will be focused on providing more career opportunities for PhD students in particular, because this aspect of Career Labs needed a little bit more developing, and Lynn is doing an excellent job. Today, I want to give Lynn some time to introduce the representative that we have here from the Forage that's going to introduce a new resource we have here on campus that will help students, both master's and PhD, find and train for jobs a little bit more efficiently. So Lynn.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zhichun Lin. I'm an assistant director of career counseling at the Career Lab, Brown University. So I mainly work with doctoral students who plans focus on non-academic job development. And I'm very happy to here tonight to introduce the representative from the Forage, Mehak. So the Forage platform, as you may already know, they provide you an opportunity to experience like the job simulation from different employer in different industries. So give you an idea what's the project from an industry look like, and so you can have this the real experience. So Mayhap today will do a demo presentations. You are free to ask questions if you have any. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Zishan, and thank you so much, everybody, for taking some time to learn about Forage. I will just start by saying that I'm jealous that I did not have this resource back when I graduated in 2014. Oh, may I please have permission to share a screen?
All participants. You should be good now.
Okay, but my name is Mehak. I live here in California, and I work on the education side of Forage. And our whole mission is to democratize career exploration, because many times in life you find yourself studying, you know, to be an accountant or be a lawyer. And I think once you're on that track, it's very hard to take time to explore alternative routes. Or maybe, you know, despite you studying to be a lawyer or be a consultant or, you know, go into finance, you still haven't had the chance to build real work experience in that area. And maybe it's because you have kids, maybe it's because you have another job, maybe it's because you have parents that you have to take care of. Our whole motto here at Forage is that we believe talent is evenly distributed. It's the opportunities that aren't. And so Forage, it's called theforage.com. It's a noun, it's a verb also, in that it's describing something you do. Forage, to go look for something, so it's like the hustle, forage, the search. And we are an online library of employer-hosted job simulations. And the idea behind these is employers pay to host these. These are 5 to 7 hour virtual experiences that have hypothetical tasks. So, if you wanted to explore what it would be like to be a consultant at Accenture, you could click into their simulation. There's no application, there's no barrier to entry, no competition, and all of the tasks are self-paced. For these companies, it's a way to train any potential candidate before they even think to apply. And if you think about it, giving anyone the chance to get training, as opposed to, hiring based on, things like your GPA or the name of your school or your past experience, it's a lot more fair to first train first and then hire. Because ultimately, all that matters from the employer's perspective is, all that should matter is, can you do the job and do you want to do the job? So these companies pay to host these, so they're free for schools and they're free for students, and you can just try anyone out. And we have a variety of areas here, like consulting and marketing, law, finance. So definitely check out some of the areas here. And we're always looking to diversify the content and add different types of employers and different types of industries here. But we're not that old. We're only about 5 years old and very, only a couple of years here in the United States. So what I wanted to do today was walk you through a simulation. And I picked my favorite because why not? But it is the BCG Climate and Sustainability Simulation. And so if we were interested in going into consulting, we could try this out. I like this one because it's you're going to pretend to be a consultant in the climate and sustainability space. So anyone here who is looking into a career where they can do something towards climate change, be involved with, reducing carbon emissions. Most companies that want to go green, they speak with a consultant. So this one is a 5 to 6 hour simulation, but it's self-paced, so there's no deadlines. And there are recruiters on the other side of each of these simulations who you can opt into seeing you, and they can reach out to you right on the platform. So here's just like a summary of some of the tasks that we'll be doing, but let's hop in and walk through this just so you can see what the flow of a simulation is like. And then we can look at a certificate of completion, and I'll show you what that looks like on a resume. But I hope this is sounding interesting. Because I know, especially with summer coming up, in about the time it takes to binge something on Netflix, you can take a job simulation and leverage a really big company's name on your resume with a certificate of completion. So a lot of these simulations are like role plays where the task will begin with a video, sometimes it's your supervisor and they're giving you the breakdown on what assignment you're going to be doing. Sometimes it's a colleague who's saying, hey, I need help with such and such. Some of the legal simulations are more dramatic, where you'll get a call from someone and they'll be like, yeah, your client's just been booked in jail or something. So just depending on the industry and the employer, some are more entertaining than others. But I'll give her a play just so you can get a sense of the intro here, and then I'll walk you through the task and show you how you can submit your work.
I'm Lily Conant, an Associate Director in BCG's Center for Climate and Sustainability. Our client, Fast Cars, has engaged BCG to identify how they will meet their new net zero emissions reduction targets. Because we look to add value for our clients, we also want to provide Fast Cars with initiatives to capitalize on new market opportunities. As always, you'll be working in a team, so I have divided up the task. Today, we need you to identify and categorize the client's sources of scope 1, 2, and 3 greenhouse gas emissions based on the data they have given us. This helps us to get a picture of what the story is for the client now. We can then use this information to identify opportunities for emissions reduction. I will email you the data file from Fast Cars and a list of additional resources to help you determine which scope the emission data falls under and information on science-based targets. Our project budget has an hour for you to spend on this task.
But you have much longer than an hour, you have as long as you need. That's just how long a real consultant would spend doing this work. And then there's some background information here, and I won't bore you by reading all of it, but this company, which is most likely a fictitious company, Fast Cars, they've gone ahead and made a commitment that they're gonna have net zero scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. We know a lot of companies that, say we're gonna be green by such and such date, but they actually have no idea how to get there. So they have come to BCG, they've come to your team, and they're sharing that they're under pressure from their investors to seriously address climate change. And they're expecting these policies will come out that say they have to stop putting in these combustion engines in their cars. So there's resources here so that you can learn about this internal combustion engine phase out, or ICE. And every employer will give you resources, links, so you can learn about the scenarios or policies, just kind of what's going on. So you'll have contacts and background information, but feel free to Google, and leverage other resources to learn more about how best to do the task. And here you can also click to learn what is it that constitutes scope 1, 2, or 3 emissions. So in this situation, we have a team leader, her name is Lily, and she's waiting on us to look at this data file, which we've been emailed, and find the parts of their manufacturing that have the highest emissions. And there's also some guidance around scope 3, which is where the company currently falls. So take your time. I know it has every task has some estimates for how long it should take you, but this is not a test. Okay, so I said this is my favorite, and I've done about 24 attempts at doing this task. But the idea behind here is exposure. Companies that are on Forge, they want you to know what the real work is like that consultants or lawyers or engineers do there day in and day out. Because a lot of money is spent training candidates and onboarding them. And in a couple of years, new employees will leave for other jobs. And it's likely because the work wasn't what they expected. So the sooner we can give folks an opportunity to see what the work is actually like, that way you can make better decisions about what career paths you'd like to take at which companies. And so it's a better matchmaking process here. So, one thing, I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit. There is a button up here at the top where you can click. It's up to you. You can do this anonymously as well and still get a certificate for your resume. And so, yes. But if you wanted to be contacted, they can reach out to you right on the platform. I want you to know that recruiters don't always have the time to read every submission. There's something actually much more important than how well you do the task. And so as you get further through the tasks, you'll see model work. And that will show you how a real employee did the same task. So, you can see the example of the email to Lily, an Excel sheet of how they crunch the numbers in that data file, and then resubmit the work. Even if you think you've done the absolute perfect job, seeing how a real employee did the same work will give you a chance to say, okay, this is how I would have done if I started working there tomorrow. But if you resubmit, the signal you're giving to recruiters is that you're self-motivated, that you're willing to demonstrate improvement over time. And it's a really good hiring signal for them. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly get to the referencing policy. Let's just pretend we finished all 6 tasks in that simulation. We get a certificate of completion. When you get this certificate, just make sure not to list it under professional work experience because this is a hypothetical situation. We're not being paid to do this work. I see it under micro-credentials. I see it under certification, achievement, extracurriculars, projects. If you have a portfolio of some sorts, like a digital portfolio, some of the projects I think are really good examples to put in your portfolio, but you'll be leveraging the company's name. And they're all really big names with clout, BCG, JP Morgan, Electronic Arts. And you don't even have to think too hard about like thinking about what tasks to list because they are listed very clearly on your certificate. So let me zoom in here for a second. So here, you know, Citibank simulation, comparables analysis, discounted cash flow model valuation. We're just going to copy, paste these, bullet them under tasks in our section. Your certificate is unique to you, okay? You have a unique credential ID. The company knows about it, Forage knows about it. And if you take this code and copy paste it under credential ID on your LinkedIn profile, it will also show up over there. So nice way to, you know, boost up your LinkedIn. I was a cashier in college, and I would say I would have loved to have a way to list my headline as program participant at JP Morgan or you know, BCG. But so that's my quick little demo of one task. I hope that you'll check out the variety of simulations that we have hosted in the library. And yeah, try one out this summer, put it on your resume. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. So I want to make sure I leave space for questions, and if I've gone over, I know you all have to be making votes on some bylaws soon. So I appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mahak. We really appreciate it. Are there any questions for Mahak or any questions about career training placement with the Forage? We'll be sure to get contact information for Mahak from Lynn so that we can follow up should there be any questions. I think this is a really exciting resource for graduates here at Brown to not only leverage our fancy Ivy League name in the job market, but we will also have some real world job training to complement that. So just another new tool to make Brown grads competitive among our peers in the job market. And for that, I really want to thank both Lynn and Mahak for taking the time to share this resource with us today.
Thank you. And we got a comment in the chat that says it's an awesome resource, and we really appreciate you guys presenting today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Have a great night. All right, everyone. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to move on to our next agenda item. Anders, could you pull up the proposal from the bylaws? Absolutely. So at our last general body meeting, it was brought to our attention that in particular for the social chair, having multiple people fill the role could be beneficial. We brought this to our executive board meeting, and we also agreed that the social chair could benefit from having 2 people fit this role. Jordan can attest that despite the fact that each position on the e-board generally has a committee, having 2 people organize the event and being the points of contact would make everybody's life a lot easier to distribute the workload, and there was interest in that. So we went through our bylaws and constitution and made a couple of changes which we would like that we have provided you in the past week to look at before we discuss it here. These changes are also up on the board. So the vote today, I guess you all can probably read better than I can, but the bolded is what we are proposing to change. So in section 1 of Article 3 of our bylaws, the officers section, the GSC shall elect as its officers, president, vice president, advocacy, treasurer, and chair. We are proposing to add or 2 co-chairs of social events. And then this will go on to name the other positions. In addition, also in Article 3, we are proposing the same change, copied and pasted as you can see. Section 8 says the chair or 2 co-chairs of social events shall coordinate and supervise all social events. We are just updating the document, fairly straightforward. And we are proposing a new subsection. So this is a new subsection to Section 8. This would be Section 8A. In case there are 2 co-chairs elected to this position, both chairs will bear equal responsibility for organizing and supervising all social events of the GSC. So again, I would argue that this is fairly straightforward. We are simply just expanding on the fact that and making sure everyone's covered. The job responsibilities are such that both of you should contribute equally should there be 2 people in this position. Are there any questions so far before I move on to section 4, the elections of officers section? Okay, so the last proposed addition will be another subsection of Article 4, elections of officers. This will be subsection 4A. Only for the position of social events, the general body can choose to elect 2 officers as co-chairs. This exception can only be allowed in case 2 members of the graduate body run jointly as part of one nomination. These co-chairs will jointly serve the duties enshrined under the position of the chair of social events and will be equally responsible for delivering the duties entailed in this particular position. A very simplified version of that is that the logic behind that was we don't necessarily want to have any internal conflict or competition by saying we had 2 people who don't know each other, work together well, run for the same position. It's a joint position. This is a shared position, and so the nomination should be joined and shared, and that was the logic behind that proposal. This is the only position that would be allowed to have 2 people sit in it at one time, as you can tell. So what we're going to do is we are going to vote on all of these changes that are all interlinked, all regard the social chair, and that's how we're going to do it. Again, only departmental reps can vote. This is how the GSC operates. If you are a departmental rep, please do vote. We have quorum tonight, which means we have 2/3 of we have a majority of people who can participate. So if there are no questions, comments, or concerns on the proposed bylaws, we will briskly enter our voting portion of the night. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, great. So we're going to vote. So we are voting on making these changes to our bylaws. Departmental reps who are in favor of these proposed changes, please raise your hand and say aye. If you are on the internet, I need to pull up this.
Oh, you have a poll ready?
I do have a poll,
Awesome.
yes.
Yeah.
So sorry, so a little slow. If you're on the internet, you have a poll that has been launched. You can vote yay, nay, or abstain. And if you're in person, you can do the same. So we will start with the yays. Raise them high. 1, 8.
8 plus 9 is, yes, and we have a 23, right?
Yeah, so that's pretty good. We'll go through the whole vote. But
Yeah.
Okay, all opposed, please raise your hand and say nay if you feel so inclined. And if you would like to abstain, please raise your hand or hit abstain online.
Reps only.
Reps only. All right, perfect. With that, I'm excited to announce that we now have the potential of having 2 chairs in the social chair. So this is awesome. Yay. So thank you all for participating. Here at the GSC, we are really interested in fostering a healthy, productive, interdisciplinary, inclusive community, and we do that in many different ways, one of which is holding these social events that are organized diligently by Jordan and the entire team on the social committee. And so I really think that this is going to benefit not only the person who sits in the social chair, but I think it will benefit graduate students as a whole to have a little bit more bandwidth to really put together these large events that we put on, okay? So thank you so much for participating. All right, simple. That's great. We like easy votes, right? Like everyone agrees. You don't get that often, right? I mean, that's amazing.
we did have 1 abstention online.
Oh, okay, so we had 1 abstention, but you're right. I mean, like that's,
Wasn't unanimous.
yeah, that it wasn't unanimous, but that was good. Okay, so we're gonna just launch right into our executive board updates.
Thank you, Joe.
we have a packed agenda. We will take those proposed bylaws home and we will integrate them into the actual constitution and bylaws. So we have an updated document. So that should be publicly available should you be interested in reading that document.
Yeah.
Okay, so this Friday, May 6th at 2 p.m. A lot of you may not participate in this webinar. However, as departmental reps, I think it could be important for you to know that these types of things exist for incoming students who will be going into your departments and need help finding houses. The GSC, in collaboration with the grad school, hosts an annual incoming student housing webinar. This year, we have about 456 people that registered for this webinar. Hopefully you guys don't get stage fright. And so we will have a lot of people getting some really good housing information. If anybody reaches out to you, if you're a departmental rep as an incoming student, please make them aware that this happens every year, that we have this resource, and it will be happening this Friday, May 6th at 2 p.m. It's about an hour and a half. We have Beanish, Joe, and Sion who will be running this, and they're really knowledgeable and experienced in doing this. So thanks for listening to that.
Yes, so if you've registered online, you should have received a link today.
They would have got it in their registration when they accepted Brown. They would have got it straight away.
But if not, we can talk afterwards, and I'll make sure you have a link to send to your department.
Then we have a question from Trishan.
Trishan, do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Trishan.
I was just wondering what is specifically going to be discussed at this webinar. I would just say that I was reached out to some incoming grad students in my department, and they were mostly international students, and I guess they thought there was like some type, it could be a potential service or maybe some collaboration that could be in play to where maybe the students here could help assist them with finding houses, because that's a hard thing. So I was wondering if that's something that's going to be discussed or what?
Yeah.
Joe?
So the main things that are discussed are where to find housing, what type of housing, how to get into Brown, how to the location, how to look, which services we've used, and everything like that. So using the Facebook, using the listserv, the different websites, parking, transit, the specific international student questions. Also throughout the summer as well, during international orientation, there's extra bits of information that come to international students as they come. And then all international students get like a PDF of like tips and tricks on how to like settle into Brown that like I helped write in the last 2 years with the international orientation as well. So it's really about finding housing and looking at that, but also the other questions. And of course, over the 90 minutes or so, people will ask questions like other bits and bats, and we will deal with them there and then.
They've also been able to submit questions ahead of time in that registration form that holds a link. There have been a lot of questions submitted, so hopefully all of those will be answered. And for the ones that weren't, I've been reached out to directly by quite a few people, and I've been plucking away and answering as well. Catherine.
I just want to the resources after the link and kind of the PDF that's created in this PowerPoint. Can you share with all the reps as well?
Yeah.
Just because I know that especially the international students are coming in, new students coming in, they're bombarded with a lot of information when they move here. Yeah. And oftentimes this stuff comes through the crack and they ask current students about resources. And we have to dig back in our emails. So it would be really helpful if we had stuff to pass along to them, oh, here you go, vacation is this.
And a good thing coming from that is also that this session will be recorded. So we will make sure as soon as it gets done, we send out the link to all the reps. Because I agree, there's so much going on. Yeah. No,
Is that something we'd be able to put on our website too, potentially, as under the resources tab?
Absolutely. I think that would be a great space for it. So the question was, can we just provide the resources after the event for people so you don't have to dig through your emails and there's so much information everywhere. We will be able to provide a PDF of the PowerPoint as well as the recording of the webinar for people to disseminate to their departments.
And you should still be able to register. We will update our meeting notes to put in the link for where you can register. So if you haven't, or if you haven't forwarded it to your reps, it'll be in the meeting notes for sure.
Were there any other questions regarding the housing webinar? No? Okay, great. So I mentioned it last time. It's important. I wanted to say it again. The world is opening. You can travel again on university's dime or in the university, the context of the university. However, you must register your travel plans for Brown-sponsored travel on this link that we've hyperlinked here called Travel Safe. This is intended to keep you safe in your travels, as the name suggests, and really it puts you into an international SOS database. So should anything happen, which we hope and pray nothing would, you will have support and resources, and like people will know where you are, so we can keep you safe in your travels. So please use this resource. This link will redirect you towards a website that has a ton of information regarding Brown-sponsored travel. Please look into that and let people know. I wanted to make an, oh.
Just as kind of convinced of it, just about traveling, was there any discussion about reopening the conference funds given the change?
That's not going to be until next semester.
Okay.
Yeah, but there were discussions. We did talk about this. I think logistically we're trying to figure out how we can do this. The social chair is the only chair that has 2 people in it now. However, reopening the travel funds will be a fair amount of work as well for the finance chair as well as the committee. And so we are discussing that because we see the value as well. We just need to figure out logistically how that's going to work to not overburden us. So thanks for bringing that up again. We will not forget. So this semester, every single meeting, we have talked about the food program. We have talked about utilizing the food program. We have provided resources for you to reach out to Maria Suarez in the grad school, the links to apply to different funding opportunities, whether it's emergency funding, short-term loans, food program, meal points, and so on and so forth. We have been fighting tooth and nail to keep this food program in operation. We have finally come to the end of the food program. I say this with sorrow in my heart. I do think that graduate students who are hungry should be fed. The GSC continues to try and feed graduate students at every opportunity that we have. Namely, we have pizza, beer, and typically soft drinks so that people can eat when you come to our meetings. At all of our social events, we provide food and so on and so forth. This is one way that the GSC supports graduate students. Another way has been by contributing a large portion of our savings to these meal programs over the course of the past about 4 semesters. We have seen an increase in need since this program started. That is what we have been using to gauge the value of this program. We started by supporting about 75 or 80 graduate students. And this last semester, we were able to not only fundraise with the votes of all of you all for voting to increase our contributions to the program, but we were able to really fundraise at the level of the administration in the Office of the President to make sure that all 171 graduate students who had applied to the meal program this year were funded and were fed. Now, it is with great sadness I'm saying that that will come to an end now. I want to just let you know and remind you of the resources that exist on campus. Come to our events, eat our food in community here at the GSC. Reach out to Maria Suarez should you have any acute and unexpected financial needs. You can get short-term loans, interest-free from the graduate school and the university. There is a lot of flexibility built into this program. There has been a lot of development that has been put in and work put into the emergency funding program here at Brown so that knowing that the food program would likely come to an end soon, there are other resources for grad students. If you go to UFunds, there will be an application that is a one application fits all for your emergency funding needs. You can apply on this application for meal points, loans, and so on and so forth. I really appreciate everybody who came out and used the meal program, and I really hope that in addition to the resources that do remain, the recent victory for grads of getting raises, significant pay raises and cost of living adjustments, will hopefully alleviate some of the food insecurity burden that grads have been feeling over the course of the last couple of years that has resulted from pandemic-induced inflation and just generally being underpaid as grad students. Are there any questions about the food program, how to find resources, and so on and so forth?
Sorry, I think this is really devastating, but is there at least the possibility that the food program could run until the rates go into effect? Because I know that's not actually happening in like July or August, and so I'd at least like to make sure that students are covered until maybe there's slightly more money in the place.
So I think that's a great idea. The unfortunate reality is that although we had begun to vote for funding the program over the summer, the graduate school has pulled their funding for the meal program, which leaves us with not enough resources to keep it going. In addition to that, the summer program, the Brown Market Shares program that we typically work with is not running during the summer because of staffing shortages. Undergrads just want to go home and be with their family. And so those two things in combination kind of put us in a pinch where if we set up the GSC run meal program that we had a summer ago, it would not only be more expensive because it's a couple dollars more expensive per share, but we would have to also hire a graduate student that would cost more money and reduce the amount of people we can serve. So I think at this point, we are kind of in a tough position to continue it even for the short term. And that's why I just want to make sure that you know what resources still exist. Even in the summer months, these are available for grads, especially before the raises hit. I know that people may be feeling pressure for about a month or two, especially given that. So yeah, I'm really sorry to have to break that news to you. And I hope that you all know that we are continuing to advocate for these resources and try and support grad students in every way regarding food insecurity.
And if you are having difficulties accessing these meal points especially, let us know. Because we really want to make sure that the resources that they say that they are offering, that they are serving the right purpose and serving the right people and everyone who needs it. Yeah.
Was there a question?
So, I really, as a TA, really appreciate the pay increase. However, there are certain departments on campus that did not acknowledge that pay increase and tried to get away with paying students below graduate student minimum wage, particularly at the Watson Institute. So if you could bring that up.
Yeah, so I will say,
I had to get legal advice involved, and have to get a lawyer to contact them in order for me to get paid for about 2 to 3 months.
wow, I'm really sorry to hear that you had to go through that.
I just want to bring to your attention that they are trying to underpay students.
Yeah. So the Watson Institute, like generally, or is that like a pro? What's
In
that?
IATA. Okay, as a grad student?
Yeah, as a grad student TA, and I have other TAs who are getting paid $10, $11, or $12 an hour.
So all of that sounds totally egregious, heartbreaking, and I'm no lawyer, but sounds like it's could have some legal backing. So I will say that wages, labor issues are very much in the wheelhouse of the labor union we have here, GLOW. And so we will consider this and we will advocate for fair pay for graduate students. When it comes to any legal issues or anything with that, I would highly recommend that you take that straight to your union representatives.
I mean, it wasn't that I didn't. It was just the fact that they persistently refused to pay any students what they were owed. And I think if someone were to bring that up to them, then and put them on notice that they are underpaying students, and that I should have to get legal involved just to ensure that students are actually paid what the law says.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am a member of the union, and I know that Brown is trying to speak out of a couple of the deals we made this past semester, and especially for campaigns for us to protest for NFA students, and geosciences and comp sci. I don't know
I mean, we can certainly make them aware that these concerns, we're hearing these concerns. Obviously, the advocacy and the legal aspects that happen for it are through the union. But yes, we hear your point, and we can certainly be advocating for, just making sure that these concerns aren't being heard. And I know that there's other departments that there's, stuff being heard from. So yeah, we hear you, and we will try our best to bring it up in a way that, seems appropriate in the kind of meetings that we attend. But we definitely want to also support you, and I think the union in any way that it can help, we would, encourage you to access those resources as well.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that. That's
yeah. I'm in the political. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I think that's great. Yeah.
Keep bringing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we hear. We're on board. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Okay, so that's a little bit about pay, lack thereof it, and some emergency resources that we have on campus. So commencement coming up 27th to the 29th of this month. Congrats to anyone who is in this audience that will be graduating. That's really exciting. And what's more is that you get to be in person at graduation this year. So if that interests you, that's really exciting. So yeah, I think that I'm stoked about that. I want to bring up the very real logistical issue about the 7th to the 29th this year. We are inviting back the 2020 grads. Campus will be an absolute zoo, okay? If you drive, do it safely. If you bike, do it safely. If you drive and don't have a bike, get a bike. It'll be easier to get on campus. So just keep that in mind. And I think it'll be a really exciting time on campus. There's going to be a lot of people who are, really happy to be here and finally graduate. So congratulations to all the coming grads. It was brought to our attention this year, and it has over the past several years, that the cost of regalia is high. And this precludes some students from being able to participate fully or comfortably in commencement. I am a little bit farther away from graduation than I would like, so I didn't realize that this was a problem, and it was brought to my attention this year, and it is very upsetting. We brought this to the graduate school. We have discussed it as an e-board. Can we start some loaner system? Can we buy, regalia ourselves, and so on and so forth? Logistically, having the GSC buy and loan and have to dry clean regalia and things like that would be an absolute nightmare. So we had to take that off the table. We just simply don't have that capacity and those resources. When we brought this up to the grad school was like, that's kind of how it is. You have to pay for your regalia. It's kind of hard, and it was kind of some hand-wavy stuff. So I wanted to make everyone aware that if you are having trouble purchasing regalia and it's precluding you from participating in commencement because it's required to go in your garb, I would implore you to first reach out to your department, be candid about the financial burden that this is putting you on, and they may be able to mobilize funds for you to help you rent or purchase your regalia. If your department is unable to do so, please use the emergency funding that we've mentioned on U Funds. This is flexible funding that would absolutely be able to support you in renting or purchasing your regalia. Odds are you will eventually have to pay this back. However, they will work with you on a payment plan, and it will obviously be interest-free. So I just want to make those resources known to you so that nobody has the really upsetting situation where money is, or lack thereof it, because you probably just paid a lot of money for school, preventing you from participating in this day that you've earned. Are there any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know this, but yeah, I'm graduating next month, and it's insane. I think like $80 to $100 already just for the regalia. Do you know if it's also possible to rent it?
So the university used to do regalia rentals, but because of the incoming 2020 grads who need it as well, and COVID, the rentals have stopped. And what they did instead was they replaced the rentals with what they're calling keepsake regalia. So it's made of a slightly different fiber, or a different material.
Yeah.
And so But what they did was this different form of a material allowed them to reduce the price so that it is in line with what you would have paid to rent your regalia. So as we brought this issue up to, the powers that be that are above our pay grade, that was the answer we got back. So they're really digging down and saying, we didn't actually change the price, we just changed it from rental to purchase, but it's the same price. So that's what happened there.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a great answer. I'm not going to lie. I agree with you on that. And we're going to continue to bring it up, and we're going to continue to advocate. Again, Maria Suarez is Assistant Dean of Student Affairs, and her with Alicia Lapola, who is the Dean of the School of Professional Studies, have noticed an increase in the trend of individuals who have reached out to the grad school to get additional funding to pay for regalia. So we have continued to advocate for more accessible regalia, and they have heard this. Unfortunately, this is happening, at the end of the year, but I'm hopeful that in the future there will be a standardized mechanism to help alleviate that burden, because that is expensive. I mean, people just paid like $80,000 a year to go to school. It's a lot of money. So we are working on solutions. So yeah. All right. At our last meeting, we had an open floor time. Sonita, she gave a really nice speech as a candidate for the master's commencement speaker. She brought up in our open floor time that there's a serious housing crisis that exists both inside the university system and outside the university system. Her focus was particularly on the housing crisis that exists outside of the university system. And unfortunately, we are the Graduate Student Council of Brown University, and as much as we want to help the world, we are limited in our resources to house people from the greater Providence community generally. However, this is a very serious problem in the community, and it also is a problem for Brown grads. This is why we have things like housing webinars. This is why the GSC for the past several years have advocated for more affordable housing, more beds that grads could go into, and so on and so forth. We've recently got the River House, and this is a luxury apartment building that's down in the jewelry district, and as the name luxury implies, the housing rates are pretty high. Now, we've continued to advocate for reducing the housing prices, and we've advocated for graduate students, especially international students who have a very difficult time finding housing, to be prioritized on this. I was told that the current wait list is about 300 people long for this River House. It is incredibly popular, and rooms go anywhere from $950 to $1,300 a month. So I just want... 1,700, sorry. I couldn't even fathom a price that high. Anyway, so I just wanted to make people aware that housing in the greater Providence community is an issue, that the GSC does in fact care about it. And as you can see in our agenda, we have linked a list of resources in ways that you can get engaged in the Brown community and the greater Providence community to help advocate for more affordable housing for both Brown graduates as well as just Providence and Rhode Island community members. I just wanted to say that because it's important, okay? One of the priorities of the GSC this year is community. This is a priority of the GSC every single year. It's in our mission statement, fostering community among grads. And so we all maybe noticed that the pandemic was not really good for community. You were probably locked in your house for a couple of years. You may have gotten sick and were locked down for 14 days and so on and so forth. So one of the things that we were really trying to advocate for this year in particular was not only bringing back the community, which we will be doing in the form of our, we've had 2 socials this year. We had our social in the beginning of the year, and we're bringing back for the first time since 2019 a spring fling, which Jordan will talk more about a little bit later. It's happening this week, and it's going to be an awesome event. Another way that we've been trying to foster and facilitate an easier community system here is by improving this space here. We are advocating for a graduate student center, and that is a very productive line of advocacy for us. We have found a location that is being, plans are being developed, and it's much bigger than here, and so on and so forth. But one of the things that we have done is installed locks on our cabinets so that the various student organizations and users of this room can store their things ahead of time for ease in a secure fashion. And Abdullah is the key holder and will work with everybody to facilitate easy key exchanges. Another thing that we've done is we've ordered speakers. The speakers in this room have been broken for years, except for that one that we were able to salvage. And we bought these really nice modular, scalable speakers that will be able to be used in our future graduate student center, as well as this space here. Those speakers are really sweet, and we have them, and I'm just letting you know that they have arrived. I had hoped to play Eye of the Tiger, but I didn't get around to setting them up. So in your head, think of Eye of the Tiger, and we got it, and like raise the roof, and like everything like that. So I really hope that you all feel like empowered to engage with the Grad Student Lounge here in all of its glory and really just use these resources because they are for you, they are for us, and we really want everyone to have a nice, strong, healthy community here. Okay, are there any questions about that? So this is not publicly available information yet. It is too early in the like planning process to disclose that. What's that? It is on College Hill. It is for graduate students. It is in a great location that will be nice and central. And we're really excited about that because really what we want to do is have a graduate center that's smack dab in the center of campus so that graduate students feel like campus is home. Because it is. Some people sleep here overnight to do their work, and it's sad, but now you can sleep hopefully in a graduate center. So anyways, so yeah, that's that. All right, so with that, we were gonna transition over to nominations.
Yeah, just a quick announcement. I know a fair number of the department reps here and various attendees are also members of my various university committees. I'm going to be sending out a survey towards the end of the semester asking those of you who are on those committees to detail what your committee did this semester. It should be fairly straightforward. I'm going to add the link to the minutes here. Just wanted to give everybody a heads up.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tressa. All right, with that, finance.
Everyone's favourite part of the evening, Treasury Corner. So, internal event funding form, it's still open until the end of the semester, which is May 30th. The same for all recognised groups. It's super simple, fill out the form. I annoy my committee, we vote, we get a response, and we sort out the funding that way. Just to go back to an earlier question in terms of potential changes to the conference fund, it's being looked at because the difficulty is that we have a limited amount of funds, a limited amount of time. So it's about trying to work that out. So that's something I will be thinking on over the summer as and when if we can do it. And then the second that we come back in September, conference fund will reopen and more than likely will follow the traditional method of anything from September 1st until January 12th or something to be covered. Simple as. Any questions? Good.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Joe. With that, we're going to kick it over to social. Jordan.
Hey guys. So the spring formal fling, whatever you want to call it, will be on May 6th, this Friday at Sales Hall from 9 to 1. Please RSVP. It's going to be free. It was going to cost money, but now it's free. So free drink tickets, no money.
You're welcome. Get free drinks and be in community together.
Yeah. It's going to be really fun.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm very excited for Friday, and I'm also happy it's for free because many of my friends are coming as well. Has people already paid?
Yes, I am going to deal with that in the coming days. That will be, I'll have a conversation with Brown Marketplace about that. But in the coming days, those who have paid or prepaid will be reached out to with respect to how to deal with those sorts of logistics. But you will get your money back.
What would be like the timeline to get it?
I can't give you one, I'm sorry, right now. But my hope is that the money is returned to everyone by the end of the month.
Sorry.
Oh, the hope is that the money is returned to everyone by the end of the month. But at this moment, I can't give a formal timeline.
Okay, thank you.
we will work as hard as possible to expedite the reimbursements.
And there was a question about why is it free now? Oh, you got it.
It comes down just to a miscommunication over budget and funds, because this is the first one that we had done in 4 or 5 years, and initially we had budgeted to go to somewhere else. Distance changed, that's why, and we realised it was very much within the budget that socials have to make it free. So rather than having $15, it made more sense to make it free, give everyone 3 free drinks so you can actually enjoy the end of the semester. So it just came down to the fact of like planning and communication.
And also flexibility that we found that we have with some logistical changes that were made through the planning process.
It's all just been getting it back to you and making sure you have a proper party at the end of the semester.
Yeah, celebrate grads. Way to go. All right, so Abdullah, student life, what do you have to share?
So, with the end of the food plan, unfortunately, one of the ways that we're trying to make up for that is by actually using the space to host a small little pantry for graduate students. And the idea behind this was a way to make it so that in the event that you find yourself needing to get food, and these services are, they don't exactly move at the pace of I need food right now. We wanted to provide a way for graduate students to access food right now. And so at the moment, there is a fully stocked pantry of non-perishable foods in 2 of the cabinets in that section of the graduate student lounge. We are still currently working out how often we will restock it and what will be in there in sort of a permanent fashion. But this is something that we wanted to announce to everyone now, especially since we know that the food program is coming to an end, as a way to sort of bridge the gap through the summer until we reach the new stipend. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I have been in contact with CAPS over the semester, and one of the resources they have made, that they have brought to my attention and to the attention of the board, is that they have actually commissioned this app called Healthiest You. And the background behind this app was that during COVID, it turns out, if you are a counselor certified in Rhode Island, you cannot provide services to students that travel to places outside of Rhode Island. And so they got this app that allows you to match with therapists in whichever state that you're in. Obviously, now that we are mostly back in Rhode Island, that initial rationale is not as relevant anymore. However, what they have now started to do is they've used this to cover themselves, given that they are having staffing shortages. So if you have been trying to reach out to people at CAPS to get an appointment, and you have had a hard time finding someone to speak to, Healthiest You has become the way that they are trying to sort of offload students to, so that you can get the help that you need. And then the last thing is that the STEAM Room, which is a STEM-inspired pop-up art gallery, will be this coming Saturday, the day after the formal. And the idea behind this event is just as a way to have a daytime event where people who perhaps could not go to the formal or are maybe recovering from a grand time at the formal want a lower key event where you can just come and hang out over wine and cheese with other graduate students and look at some art that has been created by graduate students as well. So that's coming up this Saturday, so hope to see you there.
Perfect. So our master's advocate chair is not here.
Yeah, I'll be reporting on everything in this place. So there will be an event on May 13th. It is not there, but it is something that I have. Apologies. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just add it into.
You want to come back?
Yeah. On May 13th, for master's students, there's going to be an end-of-the-year celebration at Guild PVD Beer Garden. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. There's going to be free food. First 80 people who come will get 2 free drink tickets. There'll be some desserts. And this is at the PVD Recreation District Park. You know where 225 Dyer Street is, master students, that's about where it is, so, yeah.
Pedestrian bridge, over the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, you know where like Warren Alpert, like the pedestrian bridge there, that's where it is, sort of. So yeah, and there is an efficacy doc. Email the master's advocacy chair, if you have any improvements, suggestions, from people who are currently master's students, really good thing. Not exactly sure what the advocacy doc is at the moment, but.
It's about transitioning into the new role. So anyone who's taking over the master's advocacy role, Sid has basically tried to compile all the information and all the institutional knowledge he's acquired over this year to pass it on to the person taking on, because he recognises that moving on with the role, like, there's quite a high level of turnover. So making sure that he's got lists of contacts of people who are interested in advocacy who can help out the masters moving forward.
Perfect. So with that, we have elections tonight. The first, speaking of master's advocacy, this position goes up every semester, and Sid is among the lucky graduates who's going to go on to get a job. And so last week, Sid gave a bit of an overview of his responsibilities, and they really are to try and facilitate more support, resources, and community among master's students. I did receive one interested person. Is Alex online or in person? Alex, are you still interested in running for this position? All right, good. I'm glad you said yes, because I would have put you on the spot. Is there anybody else who is interested in running for? Yes, and can we get your name?
Yeah, Ray, R-A-Y.
All right, last name?
C-H-E.
C-H-E.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Ray and Alex. Is there anybody else online or in person? Okay, so classic me, we're really pushing the button. So we're going to start with Alex. If you don't mind sharing a couple of words about why you would like to be a master's advocate and the chair of master's advocacy. You can come up front, you can grab a mic, you can talk loud.
I'm all set, I don't need the mic. I
Okay.
appreciate that. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna try to keep this brief in the interest of time, but hello, my name is Alex Maserati. It's great to be here today. And I'm a first year master's student in the BME thesis program. And so a little bit about myself. So I did my undergrad at WPI, where I also majored in biomedical engineering. And I was also heavily involved in the Greek life community there at WPI. And I'm from Franklin, Massachusetts, so I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's right on the southern border, like borders Woonsocket. But yeah, that's me. And so today I'm going to be talking about a couple of the skills that I think that I possess and I can apply and excel at this position. The first one is going to be like organizing an executive board. That's something that I have experience with, making sure that it's both effective and personal and both effective and purposeful. And then another skill that I think would be very valuable is the ability to represent a large student body that has individually unique groups. And then the last one, which I think might be the most important, is the ability to organize and implement events that have good community engagement. And to do so, I'm going to just talk on my past experiences and how those things have kind of helped me cultivate these skills. So back in my freshman year at WPI, I became the public relations chairman for my fraternity at WPI, Alpha Chi Rho. And as public relations chairman, some of my main duties involved running the social media, as well as organizing mixers with other sororities or like events with clubs on campus. And in this position, I obviously learned a lot of good communication skills. I think there's a lot to be said about the nuances in communication, even just via email. You got to make sure that you present yourself as someone like trustworthy and genuinely someone that you want to work with. And I think those skills will really help me excel at this position. And so then moving on to managing a committee, 2 years later, I was elected president of my fraternity. And so obviously there was a lot that went, especially because COVID was going on, there was a lot of organization that went in, working with my different members of the e-board to make sure everyone was on the same page at all time. And In addition, one of the big parts of being a president of fraternity is basically being the liaison between all your chapter members and the interfraternity council at WPI, which represents a large portion of the student body, as well as being a liaison between my brothers and the administration. So I gained the ability to talk to administrative people and be able to take a really busy group of students and have them be comfortable with sharing what they actually want to see change or what are the things they want to see more of, and be able to effectively communicate that to the people that actually make the decisions. And then the last is that on my senior year, I was the public relations chairman for the Interfraternity Council. And so basically I was now representing all of Greek life. And this is where I learned how to not only know how to manage the public image of my chapter, but the public image of all Greek life, so just like 13 chapters. And one of the cool things that I learned to do is, since I was now representing all the other chapters, I really had to be open-minded and making sure that I was receptive of like the uniqueness of all the other chapters to make sure that when I portray the public image, it is it kind of represents like what everybody wants and not just my specific chapter. And so I think if I were to get this position, I wouldn't only be advocating for the BME Master's Program, I'd be advocating for the Master's Program in general. So I also think that might help me out there. And so beyond that, I'm just really excited. I just really want to get involved in the university beyond academics. Being a commuter student, it's been a little bit difficult to connect with the people simply because I'm not here as much as I would like to. And I figured that this would be a great opportunity to like meet more people, like meet more students, meet more administrators, and like feel like I like kind of belong here a bit more. Not that I don't, you know what I mean? It just would be nice to get that extra touch. And then obviously all of the like kind of professional communication skills that I mentioned. This would be an awesome way for me to further hone those and potentially help me with whatever career choice I choose. And then lastly, and most importantly, I just want to see the master's experience here at Brown be the best that it can be. And I really think I have a lot to bring to the table. And yeah, that's my speech. I'm happy to take any questions.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you like the mic, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
If I'm too quiet, I can always take the mic.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Ray. I am a first-year MPH student. I came here from Houston, Texas, and I recently graduated from undergrad at the University of Texas at Dallas, where I studied neuroscience with a minor in public health. And what I think I can bring to this position is my experience in advocacy. For example, I'm currently part of the curriculum committee in the School of Public Health, and I was responsible for advocating for a brand new qualitative research track, so people don't have to take 2 semesters of biostats. They can just take 1 and 2 semesters of qualitative instead, which people have been wanting for so long. And after I heard that, I brought it to the committee's attention and got something done. And then also, I'm currently working with the current and I guess now leading chair, Sid, of the Master's Advocacy Committee. And there I've listened to other committee members and other student concerns and have been involved with meetings with the Dean of School of Professional Studies and some other administrators on trying to get these concerns to their attention. For example, concerns about receiving a diploma for international students who have to leave and where their mail service might not be reliable. So, you know, who would want to study at an institution like Brown and not be able to get their diploma? So that's something that I've hoped to bring to their attention, as well as just making sure that communication and events are properly communicated out, because it's been brought up that communication channels just aren't really that solid. And so that's something I've been working on with Sid, and I'd like to continue working on that if elected to this position. And I'd also like to continue with the committee that Sid has founded in order to continually incorporate y'all's feedback and continually involve the community that I would be elected to. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna dive right into the vote. Alex and Ray, if you don't mind taking a step outside so we can keep this nice and secret. For the online attendees, we are going to launch a poll right now for the two masters advocates there.
Honor system.
All right, so the poll is launched. Departmental reps can vote as normal. Please, if you are in favor of Alex, raise your hand nice and tall, high, whatever. And if Ray is your preferred candidate, please raise your hand nice and tall. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for participating. Welcome back, fellas. Come on in here. So we would like to congratulate Ray Chi for becoming the new Masters Advocacy Chair. And thank you to Alex for some very, very good contributions.
And you should still consider running for other posts that are still open on the board because we would love to have you on the board.
So last week, we also advertised the position of technology chair, currently filled by Anders. He outlined some of the duties, and I think they are not up there yet.
Sorry.
Are there any interested parties who know ahead of time that the technology chair is the position you'd like to run for? Yes? Great. So
Can you say your name out loud?
Melanie Ortiz.
Okay.
Um,
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
In the room or online who would like to run for this position?
All right, so we have a nice competition. If you would like to come, we are still going to vote. If you would like to say a couple of brief words before our vote, it looks like you are the only person who is running.
It's gonna be a rough competition.
Yes.
No, but we still want to hear.
Yes.
Super brief. I just wanted to let you know. My name is Melanie Ortiz. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a first year in the pathobiology department. And I think that Anders is living proof that this position, while it might seem very technical, you also have room to do a lot of advocacy and a lot of work on helping the rest of the council and also pushing any issues that you want forward. So I think that taking advantage of the technical skills that I have, I could also have a space on the council and just kind of help the community have another voice, especially with my biases, of course, queer grad students, queer students of color, just having someone else that can represent you in that aspect.
Can I ask you a question? How patient are you? When I mean like fat, like hard work, how patient?
I am still on Tumblr on this year of our Lord 2022. And I've seen drama from the low to like the peak, and I'm still there, so.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Mel, would you mind taking a quick step outside? We're going to go through the full motion. Thank you so much. We will let you back in soon. So we are launching the poll for our online representatives who are eligible to vote. In-person representatives eligible to vote. All in favor of Mel, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, thank you everybody for participating, and we give Mel a big round of applause when they walk in. All right, so that's excellent. So with that, we're moving forward to our social chair. As we amended our bylaws, those do take effect as of this meeting, so we can have a joint nomination. Is there anybody in the crowd that is interested in running for social chair?
Oh, what a surprise.
As a joint nomination, can you please provide us with your names for our doodle poll here?
Yeah, R-E-M-Y-A-R.
Okay.
So Olivia and Mir.
And Remy Muir.
Remy. Remy.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Are there any other interested parties? Sorry, I'm trying to make the poll at the same time. Are there any other interested parties in running for social chair? Okay, cool. If you two would like to come up and give a very brief description of what you can do.
Would you like the mic or you?
Hi, I'm Remy. I'm Olivia. We were on the social committee for a year under two different yet equally wonderful social chairs, and we had a great time. And so we've seen kind of the ins and outs of planning both the big events and the small events, so we feel as though we're ready to handle the pressure between the two of us. And we are just both very passionate about bringing together our community of grad students. I know I probably didn't meet a person outside of my department until I went to one of our GSC events. So we just want to replicate that for future generations. Yes, and have a good time and get some tickets.
Can I ask you a question? So like, since this is the first time we're having like two co-chairs, can you talk a little bit about how you guys are planning about like splitting the work or about what events you want to work on, and how do you plan on like working together?
Right. Yeah, so we're both in the neuroscience department, so actually we're like the neuro reps and have kind of done that together. Olivia was the neuro department social chair, so she's done the social coordination stuff. I think for the big events, it'll be kind of an equal divide of labor and ideas. And then some of the smaller events, we might split them up, like I take a smaller event, she takes a smaller event, so that way we're kind of not both super stressed the entire year. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. With that, if you don't mind taking a step out so we can vote, skip competition. Okay, so our first co-chair for the social chair, we've launched the poll online for our online attendees to vote. All in favor of our dream team duo, Remy Olivia, please raise your hands. Great. Thank you for participating. And when you come in, whoop it up. Okay, wonderful. So we will start facilitating the transition of these roles ASAP. The Graduate Student Council generally does not work over the summer. However, that will give us ample time to begin to facilitate the transition. So if you have just gotten onboarded, please link up with the current person in your position so we can exchange email information and begin to facilitate the transition of materials and knowledge. With that, it's in our bylaws that we are required to first announce a vacancy in a position and then we vote in the subsequent meeting. I have really enjoyed the GSC and the community that we have developed here.
We can see you properly on this.
Over the course, sorry, I should sit down. I like to stand up, but I should sit down. Over the course of the several years that I've been involved, whether as a general member, a departmental rep, or an e-board member and the nominations chair, currently serving as president, I have realized that I think it's about time for me to begin to invest my time back in myself and in my work so I can continue to move on. So today I'm announcing that I will be stepping down from the position of president, and I would like to say thank you all for supporting me and the GSC generally as we continue to advocate for graduate students. I will not be leaving the university in any way, shape, or form, and really do plan to stay very, very active as an engaged community member in various other capacities because I am all over the place on campus and very involved. The president position is a meaty position. You are the lead advocate, you are the head honcho of the GSC. You are a de facto member of the Brown University Community Council. You meet regularly with the provost and his cabinet. You meet regularly with the president and her cabinet, sometimes in combination with the provost. So you do have a lot of meetings, which involves creating agendas and things like that. You create the agendas for these meetings. You invite the speakers, facilitate Lynn and the forage and so on and so forth. And the council here serves to support you in all of these endeavors. Who else do we meet with? We meet with Campus Life on a regular basis. This is Corin Buckegard and Eric Estes and Vanessa Brito. So we're always advocating for more health resources, mental health resources, and transparency in that. And we meet with the grad school. So the Graduate Student Council is blessed with the opportunity to form a very productive relationship with the graduate school. This is a very collegial and give and take type relationship that together, historically, we have been able to achieve great things for the community and graduate students. I think being the president of the Graduate Student Council requires a lot of skill in communication, personnel management, schedule management, and so on and so forth. I wanted to just give a little bit of a background about what that position entails so that interested parties come September can take the summer to think about what they would like, whether or not they think they're suited for the role. I think that the Graduate Student Council and the Graduate Student Council is a place where we mean to foster community among graduates. These are all graduates, whether you're a master's student, international student, a PhD student, a non-traditional student, any type of student. This requires a lot of effort. You'll be talking to people from other countries. There could be miscommunications, English as a second language, and so patience, compassion, empathy, and trust in the community and the board is absolutely necessary. We want to make sure that we create an environment where everybody feels supported, and that starts in this room. That starts with this board. If we cannot advocate for one another, whether we're executive board members, if the executive board cannot advocate and support you as departmental reps and general members, then our advocacy as a whole is severely, severely impacted and hindered. So if you are interested in running for an executive board position, including the president, I implore you to consider what you can contribute in terms of collegiality, productive discourse, compassion, trust, empathy, and of course, advocacy and time management, because these are important as well. So with that, I wanted to just say thank you. This is a little bit about the president position. I'm happy to field questions, comments, concerns from now through the summer. I know this is maybe a slightly jarring transition. It is not in reality, but however, I will be finishing out this semester. We will be having a lot of awesome events, which I'm happy to see all of you there. And in September, we will hold elections for the president position. Are there any questions? Are there any comments or concerns? Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. And with that, we're going to move on to our last agenda item. So one thing that we started during the pandemic, and sorry I stand up, I just get really stand-uppy. So one thing we started during the pandemic when we were all dismissed from work and had to isolate at home was recording and transitioning to hybrid meeting formats. Now, historically, it's in our bylaws, and in practice, we have done this. The GSC is obligated to record our meeting minutes by the chair of communications and disseminate these to the departmental reps who are then required to disseminate them to their departments. This is a way in which we access all graduate students in all departments and we allow students to find what we talked about in a very concise and productive way. Having our meeting minutes in this format allows us to correct mistakes, insert hyperlinks, and increase transparency and accessibility for graduate students. Because the world shut down, we started recording our meeting minutes for accessibility. The world is open. We're sitting here with unmasked, eating together. Now, we never instituted the recording policy into our bylaws. And as Rodney suggested earlier, not only are some of our attendees, guest speakers, uncomfortable with being recorded, some of our executive board members and departmental reps are as well. For that reason, we thought it was only fair to do away with the recordings. Now, in regarding the meeting format, as it stands now, we continue to have and offer a hybrid meeting format. This allows people who are uncomfortable, sick, or whatever the case may be, to still participate in the comfort of their home, their car, or wherever the heck they are. right? However, we found that since we do not hand out consent forms, we do not ask you all if you consent to being recorded, it just seemed reasonable to stop recording. This has been slightly a topic of discussion among the executive board and general body members, and so we wanted to just make you all aware that this meeting is not being recorded, and we do not have plans as it stands now to continue recording in our future meeting minutes, in our future meetings, because it seems redundant and we have meeting minutes that are very easy and accessible for all. I know this is an open floor time point too, so I wanted to open up the floor with that. Okay, sorry, I just want to make sure. I wanted to open up for a brief discussion. I know we're pushing the time here about recording to kind of field opinions and sentiments on this topic.
I guess I can start with that product as well, but essentially, I've been approached by people from program and other friends that have grads that actually like having the meeting recordings, because sometimes things can get lost in translation when they're written in the minutes, and it could be a little easier for them to like scroll through and like just find like the point of the meeting. Like when we talk about it, listen to it, it's like, okay, it puts the minutes into context. That's basically like some of the feedback that I received. So I just thought that perhaps like every other decision that we make, it would be wise to perhaps put it to a vote, or some kind of consent form, or just try to see if we can, as a group, determine if we want to move forward with that, or
Can I just say, I have heard from multiple people who have expressed concerns about their being recorded, and as you guys remember, when we did the commencement speakers, for example, right? Some of them didn't want to be recorded, and I also feel like when we're in the sanctity of this room, sometimes we discuss difficult topics, okay? Sometimes we're discussing criticism of the grad school, sometimes we're discussing a lot of things that are sensitive topics that people might not feel, and they have expressed that they don't feel comfortable being recorded for. Why we think the minutes are a great way to do this is because we can do a better job at recording the minutes and adding more context, having more people add the context that you're exactly saying. But also things like, when we say like we need to add links to things, right? Like when we say that there's like a lot of material that we need to go back to and make sure that it is proofread and we give you the correct information. Sometimes in this conversation we might say something, but we want to make sure we give the right links, we give the right dates for events, and in my experience it has just been the most accurate and the most like in terms of referencing, when you're going back you can just look it up more easily. So that's the concerns that I have heard, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, but I also don't want to dismiss the concerns that many people have raised about their comfort level in just expressing themselves in this room. So for that purpose, I would really, really want to make a case for making sure we add maybe more people to have a more, like the minutes are much more reflective of the context that you're referring to. But I do think, because that's, we've not taken the consent of everyone in the room, and I do want this to be a safe space for people to actually be able to be open, and us to be open, right? About our opinions and share what our experiences have been with the grad school, for example. It is a little bit of that's the case I would make, I guess. Catherine.
We had a comment, can I just read it really quickly? It came in slightly beforehand, I'm sorry. So Trayshawn made a comment just saying, I understand if speakers and maybe some departmental reps are uncomfortable, but I believe that recording meetings are good for transparency. I also noticed that the meeting notes do not accurately translate what was said. And so I hear that, I see that, and again, as I mentioned, when you join the executive board or the graduate student council, you're voted by your peers for your credentials. If our meeting minutes are not accurately reflecting what was said in the meeting, that is a position-specific issue that we can address with that position specifically. Our meeting minutes should always be accurately recorded, and if we have individuals that have trouble accurately recording them, then we will have to readdress their ability to carry out their jobs. And so I apologize if that is the case, and that can be something we consider. Catherine.
So I'm actually poor, but I get your point. I I think it's a little biased because it's on the board, and honestly, the recording makes you look bad. It does. The board is privileged to a lot of information from individual students as well. And to protect individual student privacy when it comes to a lot of stories, it's really difficult to they were debating effort in meetings, just so you're not singling out a single student or department, or, you know, like, oh, students have expressed this concern or whatever it was. And it can be extremely difficult when it comes to that transparency, like we're trying to tell you, or they're trying to tell you that information. And then also vice versa, and then having that trust with telling things to the board. And that recording of the story or experience is out there to be used against you in a way. Yeah. And so, I mean, I see how the recordings played their part in the pandemic because everybody was a little bit everywhere. I mean, I was home, it really helped to be, you know, be able to have those virtual meetings. But in the case of to increase transparency and to also be able to have just that comfortability to be able to bring things up in this meeting without worried that my words will be taken and put out of context and some other meeting. Like, did you hear what Catherine said during this meeting about Black students on campus and how they're being treated by X, Y, and Z? Because my words have been taken out of context. And so, I guess I get hesitant because knowing that these meetings are being recorded, I don't want to say anything. Because I know what it's done. I know the backlash. And so, I guess I see both sides, I really do, but especially with being a safe space, if we're talking about money, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about students struggling, and having that out for the world to see, like that's behind the two-factor authentication, I can see where it gets a little iffy. Both sides have their pros and cons, but in the context of us being able to really get down to the root and solve the issues that are really a problem for us, I think that's privacy. And that's just like my role.
Yeah, so.
Because I've seen it come back and fight people.
Absolutely. So Alistair has his hand up. I just wanted to say that Matt Jones made a comment saying, I feel strongly that the hybrid format should continue. I can see both sides of the recording debate, and I want to clarify that this conversation is specifically about recording and has nothing to do with the hybrid format. As it stands currently, we are hybrid. We will remain hybrid until anyone else chooses to make a different decision. The executive board, as it stands now, has no interest in removing the hybrid option for graduate students. We are simply discussing whether or not we should be recording the meetings. Alistair.
I completely agree with that. Of course, for both people as well.
Can you be louder?
So I completely agree with Kat, and again, we both served on the board. I think in addition to just like having people be more open and just willing to kind of speak about contentious issues, in a way, if we were to record it and send that out, it kind of goes against just the whole structure of what the GSE stands for, where we have representatives who come and discuss and disseminate information and then bring that back to your departments, and you are, in a way, supposed to kind of compile that into a summary, which are the minutes. Nobody in their right mind is going to listen to like a 2-hour recording of a meeting that you already have a representative going to make sure that your voice is heard and that you get that pertinent information. So I think in a way it's redundant with the structure that we currently have and we've always had for the entirety of the GSE. So that's why I think we shouldn't be having, for the reasons that Kat mentioned, having a recording available. And like we have always done, because it has always worked, have minutes sent out to all the departments via the departmental structure.
Absolutely. So I wanted to just comment that Farha has made a comment. Transparency is important. If we are critiquing the graduate school, it's not hush-hush. It's an actual issue we are discussing. The presentation from Forage today would have been cool to record and share. So with that, I just wanted to have this conversation and have the opportunity to field some input. As it stands now, we will not be recording And if there is a push for more desire to record, this is something that should be addressed in an amendment to our bylaws. Simply because we will need to put in provisions for consent forms for both individuals, executive board members, and speakers. And so I think logistically this will add a burden to the executive board and has potential to slow our advocacy. But we do want to give credence to everybody's opinion, as you should have an opinion.
And in the meantime, we'll make sure we work on the meeting minutes as well. Like, if they're not, like you're saying, like there people don't think that they're accurately reflecting the context, or if there's anything missing, that we have more eyes on there, or if we have more people recording it, just so it becomes a better reference document for everyone that serves the purpose of recording everything very particularly. So thank you for actually sharing that concern.
I know that we're at time, so thank you so much for staying. I wanted to give Trayshawn an opportunity to give her open floor agenda item, which I can't quite remember what it was. I think it was
virtual hybrid.
Hybrid.
Yeah.
So Trayshawn, did you still have a comment, or have we addressed your comment in this discussion?
Well, I think it's really two things. So one, we're still going to have the hybrid option for next year.
That's correct.
Okay, great. So the second issue I have is, this is really for like graduate student groups. Our issues with SAO. One is just, they treat us like we're children, and then when we have to use their services for events, they treat us like shit, excuse my language, but that's what it is. They talk down on us, they have attitude problems, and then it's hard for us to even have access to our graduate advisor that's supposedly be appointed for us, and she don't like to answer her emails. I don't know what the issue is. I feel like this is an issue that just happened this year, and it's just very frustrating to have to work with them and then try to build the community that we're supposed to as these graduate student groups. If we have to work with SAO, and SAO is just being ridiculous at every piece and turn. So I was wondering if the graduate student union, graduate student council, or if there's a resource that we can complain this to that actually is going to do something. I mean, I can remind you of what happened last year with your event, where there was a racial profiling with SAO event people. So is there a way we can deal with this?
So Joe and Jordan can tap into this, and I do want to just chime in quickly and say that we are acutely aware as organizers of 400 plus events, the problems that exist with SAO right now. And although this is not something we talk about in our meetings quite often, this is a point that we harp on in our meetings with the graduate school, and so on and so forth. So Jordan and Joe can give you a little bit more context. We hear you, we agree with you, it's a nightmare.
So when I first came on as treasurer, like over 2 years ago, SAO wanted us to have all of our funds through SAO, and Catherine and I told them quite politely to fuck off. So the base premise is that they're encroaching and we're trying to push back. Please email me this, because they're messing with my money, and I don't like them touching the treasury. So message me, and it's the thing I'm going to die on as I expire in the executive.
And Jordan has compiled a really nice document of our woes with SAO that I have since shared with people in the office of the provost even, to document and begin to develop a paper trail of some of the issues that the GSC alone has had with SAO. So if you have the time and space to do something like that, there will be strength in numbers. We are beginning to compile the issues, and I think if you can provide some more context, it'll be really helpful for us.
It's not just me, but there's other groups as well.
Oh yeah, it's every group. We've spoken to every group.
So mind you, actually in response
So
to
is there like a way we
SAO
can kind of group this together, like in one, like maybe all the groups together, including GSC, can come together with a document and just like fill out these complaints?
Yeah, so we have currently a 7-page document with 7 pages and about 8 figures of email chains and back and forth with SAO that Jordan has compiled and I have shared. So that's one thing that we've already done to address this. We are also discussing with the graduate school the development of a policy manual that's specific for graduate students in terms of what policies are relevant for graduate students in regards to the events we hold and how they contrast to the policies that may be necessary only for undergraduates. The problem is that currently, since 2019, if you go back to our archives and our meeting minutes, there is not a solid graduate student liaison in the SAO office. They have had insane turnover during the pandemic and they still have positions unfilled. So they are bursting at the seams in terms of workload and understaffed. So we have not been able to begin to develop the policy manual yet because we need the position to be filled. Next week, I will inform you that there will be 4 or 5 interviews to fill the position for SAO. The position has been elevated, whatever that means. Perhaps it's more pay, so that they can have a more robust candidate pool and come out with representatives. So this is definitely something that is being addressed actively, and I want you to please reach out. We can collaborate, sit down, and get some documents together, you and other organizations, so that this can be addressed, because it does. It hinders progress, it hurts our vendors who may not get timely payment, and it can prevent us from having the community events that we need here.
Yeah, if I could add one. To try to pull back, try to pull them back more. Now they can say, well, they're clearly in our domain because we have an associate director for grad students. So any of your concerns, please tell every single group that's had a problem, give it over to us. I mentioned the spring fling, mind you, it was May 6th. The original plan was to have that April 22nd or even earlier, and that was planned months in advance, but because of issues from a lot of domains, it had to be May 6th. So, we hear you, we understand you. We have, me personally, I've gone through a lot of it. Trust me, it can be very frustrating. And, please compile everything you have, because that's going to put us at a stronger position at the negotiating table, and it's going to give us the capacity to show why we need this autonomy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Really good point, yeah.
So, okay, so with that, we're going to make a motion to conclude our meeting. Thank you so much for staying.
I have a really quick.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for being a phenomenal president. You have clearly been phenomenal in the role. I think you have been an outstanding advocate for all of us, so we're sad to see you go, but I just want to say thank you for all the work.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm blushing, I'm gonna start crying. But no, so yeah, thank you all. I really appreciate it. So with that, can I have a motion to, yeah, so can we close the meeting now so I don't start crying in public?
No, but also I would like to say all the members who are leaving the council for this semester, you guys have been great and we will miss you.
Definition of patience.
Patience. Passwords, no Tumblr, but still patience. So
yeah,
thank you.
We really appreciate the whole board, and we're gonna get moving on.
Yeah.
stronger.
Onward and
better.
forward. Our advocacy is strong. The GSC remains strong. We're here for you. You're here for us. And so thank you so much.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you to the outgoing members. Welcome to the incoming members. Can we have a motion to end the meeting? Motion. Can we have a second? Are there?